this is the fifth pillar in the Scale Your Small Business process. We're going to dive in to teams today. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, holy smokes, this is something that I need to do, or this is something that I'm really struggling with my current employees. So let's dive in. This one's going to be short and sweet, as all of them are, but just know that there is more information. We're going to be talking about this more and more because it's something that I hear about all the time. People struggling with teams, communicating, workflows, all these different things. So, in this episode, we're going to dive into that. Let's start off with, I think, the best analogy that goes hand in hand with working with a team. So, I don't know if any of you out there have built a home, or maybe you just watch HGTV and love it. I know I do. But let's take the home building and set it aside. Now, many of you have probably watched someone build a home on HGTV. You know, it's a very fast process. Now, I'm not here to hate on HGTV because I actually love that channel. But let's be honest, it's not all shiny faucets and pretty decorations. Actually, it's quite the opposite. I know because I've been there. I've built multiple homes. I know what a down and dirty mess it really truly can be. Now, everybody focuses on the fun part. So that's the end when you get all to put all the pretty, shiny, sparkly things into the house. But like anything, you've got to have a solid foundation. But a lot of people don't see that. And anytime you're going to start a project, you're going to build a house, you need a blueprint. And then from there, you've got all these types of permits you have to get. You've got to get approvals. There's just so much that goes into it. All stuff that you can't see. And before you even start building your house, when you've got all the permits and you've done all the legwork, you've got to know where to dig, how deep to dig, where the property lines fall, what design can you do, where are the water lines, how are you going to get electricity. There's so many different things that come into play that you don't see that are all behind the scenes. Now, if all of that I said probably brings up a lot of anxiety and you're like, that is the exact reason why I never want to build a house. It's just too much legwork. Let's say that we've made it through the foundation phase. Praise hallelujah, we're there. That's a big milestone to be able to hit. Now we've got to start framing. Let's add to the list of collecting that needs to be done. Now we've got our general contractors, electricians, plumbers, framers. We've got wood, nails, screws, hammers. We've got roofers, windows, all the things that you may never have thought existed that go into the home building process. Then you move on to drywall. I mean, that's where things really start to come into shape and you can actually see what's happening, because before you've been able to look through the walls and without having things built up, it kind of really doesn't make sense, right? Now, you might be asking yourself, what does building a house have to do with hiring and managing my team? Well, it has to do with everything, because when you're building a house, it's very much an organization symphony. So everything is working together, everything is in harmony. It makes so much sense, and you feel so good when things are going so well. Now, we've talked in prior episodes about how to organize this workflow, where to put it, where to store it, which is super important. But I think another thing that people don't really think about is you've really got to learn to let go. So when you're in this house building process, you are doing all the things. You are in charge of everything, making sure that everything is running on time. And it's very similar to when you're running a business. It's very much you've got all these plates spinning in the air. You want to make sure that nothing gets dropped because there's a ton of people that are depending on you. Not only your employees, but also your customers, also your vendors. It can be overwhelming at times. And by making sure that everything is organized, it can be so much better. But when you're growing your business, that's your baby, just like your home is. And being able to grow that business, you need a team to do that. And I've always said that it's better to get that team before you're ready. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're saying, Jill, that's a really great idea, but where in the world am I going to get the money for the team? Keep listening to those episodes because we're actually going to cover that. We're going to talk about that exact same thing. But today, I really want to focus on managing your team. And just like building a house, building that team really comes down to delegation. Now, if you followed along in this podcast, you know that I've talked before about making an organization grid. So getting that organizational chart ready Whether you have people now or you're looking for people in the future, you want to create those job descriptions for people so you know what you're looking for. And when the right person comes along, you'll be able to easily slide them into that position. Now, what does that look like? How do I even do that? You might be asking. So, you want to make sure that those tasks that you've identified that you don't want to do, you're not good at, and you just know, I should not be the one in charge of this, you've got to make sure that you are either automating or delegating it. So, kind of the easiest way to describe this is thinking of it like a funnel. So, you want to take those tasks, and as the tasks go down the funnel, we're going to eliminate, we're going to automate, and we're going to delegate. And that's the right order to make sure all those tasks get done. Now, the best place to find this funnel, it's called the focus funnel, is in Rory Vaden's book, Procrastinate on Purpose. And this book was a huge eye opener for me because it really shows you, okay, now that you've eliminated, delegated, automated, what do you do now? Well, you can either concentrate on it now or procrastinate it till later. Now, of course, we don't want anything to be procrastinated, but that really just starts the funnel all over again. So anything that we're like, we're just going to procrastinate that later, goes back into the top of the funnel, and it's just this sequence of making sure that everything is either automated, delegated, or focused on. And you might be asking yourself, well, how do I know what team member is right for that? And I think the main thing that you want to focus on if you have a team currently is to ask them. Now, that might seem really weird, but when I did this with my team, I was shocked in the best way possible at their answers. I said to them, what's the favorite part of your job? What do you love to do? Is there something that you're not doing that you would love to be in charge of? Is there something that gets you really super excited? And their feedback that they shared with me was golden because it really helped me shift their positions, make sure that they were doing things that they loved to do. And we all know that employees do better when they're excited about their work. Nobody wants to go to work every day and feel like it's a slog. That's not good for anybody. So the first thing you want to do is start that conversation. Now, if you don't have employees, that's totally okay. You can still create their job descriptions as if they were there. So looking for someone who's maybe super great at email, somebody who's maybe super great at organization or the funnel systems, making sure that your Asana is working correctly. There are all sorts of people out there that have certain strengths, and knowing what you need that person to do will go miles when you are looking for someone to fill a specific role. It just makes it so much easier because then you know when you're interviewing people, those certain things that they're saying, you're like, oh, this person would be awesome for this task. So you want to go through, you want to make sure that all your tasks are identified, like we mentioned before. Figure out what can be automated and delegated. That's going to be huge because if it's something that can be automated, there's most likely a program out there that can do it, and it would be so much less expensive than hiring someone to manually do that if you could just automate it. Now, of course, if you have a team, you're looking for a team, you want to create clear expectations of what you need that person to do. So we've talked previously about loading those tasks into Thinkific. If people get confused, they have somewhere to go to follow along and make sure that they're doing the task correctly. That will be huge in eliminating mistakes, questions. You know, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where someone has asked you the same question so many times and you're like, oh my gosh, why can they just not get it figured out? Well, this is the perfect scenario. You could use Thinkific or something like it to remind them, hey, don't forget, go check that out because all the steps are laid out for you. And then eventually the distractions and the interruptions will decrease. It's awesome. The next thing you want to do too is make sure that you're holding people accountable to those tasks. Now, I find with my folks that the best way to do things is to give them the list of stuff that needs to get done in Asana. We keep everything there. And then just let them know when the due date is. But I don't care whether they complete it in the morning, at night, what day they do it. As long as they get it done by the due date, I let them manage it. Because some of my folks really love working at night. And some of my folks really love working during the day. It's just whatever works better for them. So I allow them the freedom to do what they need to do when they work best. And that's super empowering to them as well. So this week, I want you to sit down, go through your tests, and take a look at some of the things that you know that you need to be delegating. There's probably some, even as we're talking right now, that you're like, yep, that's one I definitely got to get rid of. I hate it. But you haven't done anything about it. So make your delegate as well as your automate list. Figure out which stuff goes in which bin, and then we can work towards finding you a team member that can take that off your plate. Make sure that you leave a comment down below this video or shoot me a message over on Instagram because I would love to hear your questions and feedback. That's what we're going to be talking about in next week's episode, finding out what the community had to say, what their response was to this episode, and I would love for you to join in.